Hi, coaches. This is my 15-minute coaching consultation script for helping clients with their New Year's resolution. I've used this on more than 100 people. I'm going to provide a written version of it, but I think it'll just make a lot more sense to you if you hear the words of the script actually coming out of my mouth. So before I get into the script, let me say a little bit about how I think a consultation tends to turn out. So having done hundreds of these are the most common outcomes in order of most popular first. Most common. So the most common one is that the client gives you a resolution that's framed in terms of an outcome rather than a plan. So a plan, they are in control of following. An outcome, often they're not in control of. So an outcome might be, I want to get promoted at work. Well, they're not in control of that. They're bosses. They could make a resolution to do the things that would reasonably lead to a promotion. They would have control over that, but not the outcome. And in general, outcome-based resolutions don't work out that well. The second is that they have a plan that will work under ideal conditions, but will struggle under tough conditions. And you're a coach. You've seen a million ways that that's true. And so you get a chance to help them plan for a more robust resolution that will work in the tough spots. The third is that the client makes an ambitious plan, but it comes out that they have so many other commitments that you can't see any possible way for them to actually follow through. They're not going to have enough time. And the way that I frame that is an issue of permission. They're not giving themselves permission to say yes to the resolution and no to other things. And that can be a really interesting conversation, even in the short time allotted. The fourth is that they choose a resolution that they don't really care about. And this is why you'll see in the script, you don't just ask what the resolution is, you ask why they chose it. And forcing them to say why often gets them to say, well, I was choosing between this or this other one. And generally you want to guide them towards a resolution that is that they're fully committed to, because a year is a long time to work on something if you don't actually care about it yourself. And the fifth is that they have a well thought through resolution and a well thought through plan, and your job as a coach is just to fill them with confidence by telling them what a good job they did. Okay, so I think after you hear me say the words, find the written version of the script, and the way to learn it is just to say the entire script out loud one time, and then put this 5-part plan, write down this 5-part plan as kind of a prompts, and I guarantee you'll be able to improvise off of the prompts. I don't think you have to memorize it word for word. It'll be pretty intuitive to most of you. But if it's not intuitive, then yeah, memorize it word for word. No one ever got dinged for putting in extra work. All right, so the opener. The reason I do 15 minutes is, one, because it's all you need, and two, because I was doing dozens of these a week every year, and that's how I got to do more than 100, is I wasn't doing 90-minute calls, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to talk to so many people. So the first thing I do is greet them and set expectations right away. I say, hello, we only have 10 minutes, that's plenty of time, but only if we jump right in. So let's start. What are you thinking about choosing for your resolution, and why is this resolution important to you? That's the script. If the person doesn't say anything about why, or says very little about why they chose that resolution, you have to follow up. Often they just only answer the first half of that question. So the follow-up is, I'd like to hear more about why you chose this resolution. Why is this important to you? It's possible that the why is very muddied. And at this point, and it's possible that they might actually say, I chose this because I think it'll make my family happier, or but I was also thinking about this other one. What do you think? And so almost always you can resolve this as a coach just by saying, well, a year is a long time to work on a resolution. And so it's probably going to be a lot more successful if you choose the one that you personally are the most committed to. Of what you've told me so far, does this feel like something you could commit to for a year? Now you get to start doing in your own head, not out loud, the first part of the diagnosis. Is it an outcome or a plan? If it is, I want to make $1 million, or I want to raise, or I want to lose 50 pounds, those are outcomes. These are people that need to commit to a plan, and very often they don't actually have any idea how to reach their resolution goal. So the plan is the first step, and if they haven't done it already, then the insight you're going to give in this consultation is the need to make the plan. So if it's an outcome, I do something, and a lot of my coaching is I try to expose the process. It's empowering for the client, and in general, if you empower the client, they end up liking the coach more. So if you can teach them the magic behind your trade as you go along, generally it makes for a better coaching relationship, and it helps them be more successful. So you'll note that in my response here. I say, so this is the script for if it's an outcome. Can I put a label on your resolution? It's what coaches call an outcome-focused goal. The downside to an outcome-focused goal is that sometimes you aren't in control. For example, if your goal is to get promoted, you can do the work to get promoted, but at the end of the day, your boss is responsible for whether or not you do get promoted. So that's the rub. You are in control of your own actions, but you're not always in control of the outcome. So a question for you is, what steps do you have to take to achieve this outcome? And would your resolution be a success if you took those steps, but somehow you didn't achieve that outcome? So here, right away, you're going to find out if the person is able to come up with a plan off the top of their head. If they're not, then 10 minutes is not going to be enough for you two to create one. So stop right there. The need to create the plan is the insight. And you tell them that. So what I'm hearing is that the plan might be a hard part of what you need to do here. How important does it feel to figure out a plan for this resolution? And is there maybe a date you can commit to holding yourself accountable for having this plan finished? That's it. If they're ready to commit to a date, that'll get them a lot of the way towards turning this resolution into something they could succeed at. If they're not yet, well, then they're not ready. Like you're not here to force anyone to do anything they don't want to do. You're here to facilitate them towards a more likely success. Okay, so now we've covered the case of they told you an outcome, not a plan. If they did frame their resolution as a plan, then tell them. That's a good thing. Good job. So I say, can I note a good thing about your resolution? You framed your resolution in terms of the plan you want to follow instead of just the outcome you were hoping to achieve. And having a plan is such a good thing because it means you are in control over whether or not you succeed. You control whether or not you take the steps. So after giving that praise, try to find some way to sharpen the plan. And there's an easy scripted question for this. Can you predict any challenges that are going to make it hard for you to follow this plan? Yes, usually they can. And you try and get the challenges out of them. If they give good answers to each challenge, sometimes they say, well, I might have this problem, but here's how I'd solve it. That's yet another opportunity for praise. You say, coaches call this part of planning when-then lists. You're doing it naturally and making good contingency plans. Good job. If the challenge is all the other things they have in their life, then this is what I was saying earlier about permission. And here's the script I use for people that are not giving themselves permission to succeed because they're not giving themselves permission to say no. I say, do you mind if I give you 2 concepts that may or may not help you find time to succeed at this resolution? The first is this word permission. It's up to you to find a way to give yourself permission to say yes to this resolution and no to other projects and responsibilities that are in the way. And the other concept is one that we call healthy self-entitlement. Selfish people have too much self-entitlement. That's unhealthy self-entitlement. But that's not your problem. You're a giver. And so you need to be the one to make a conscious effort to find moments to put yourself first so that you can be at your best for other people. This is what we call healthy self-entitlement. How do you feel about those 2 concepts? Give them a chance to talk about it. But all you've really done is given them language that they can use to think about. I mean, someone who has too many commitments has a lot to untangle before they can actually get out of them, but you've given them 2 little tools that they can start to do that, and you're not, of course, going to fix the whole ball of wax in a single 10 or 15 minute call. So it may be that they give you a plan and you see right away a simple little insight to give it to them. If you don't have any insights, here's my default go-to insight. Say, a lot of people start strong, like you seem ready to do, but then they actually fade because it's too easy. The thing to do to combat that is to put on your calendar a time to reflect on this resolution 100 days from now. So that'd be about April 10th. Like literally put it on your calendar, because if you succeed too easily, you'll start to forget how much work is required to succeed. You'll get overconfident, and then it'll sort of fade from being top of mind. And that's actually when people who succeed early end up failing late. And that's how to combat that. There. That's my generic advice if I can't find any other coaching way to be helpful. And at this point, you're pretty near the end, because, I mean, this video is almost 15 minutes of me talking, and that's as long as you're going to have on the call. So at this point, you want to leave them feeling good. I say, I love your resolution, and while you're doing it, your plan is really shaping up. But the point of these consultations was to pitch them, or at least lead them to coaching. To invite them is actually the better term. It's not a hard sale. Someone either wants help or they don't. And you've done the key part of selling already, which is you've offered value. So the script, I prefer to give the sale in email. Then they might not be, it's a little less socially awkward, it's a little less putting them on the spot. And then they get to think about it a little bit. So, and of course, if it was a completely awkward conversation, then don't bother, right? Like if you didn't give them any value, or you didn't like each other, or I don't know, it's not going to go bad for you, but if it does, then now's not the time to pitch. But here's the scripted way. Say, do you mind if I send you an email with more information about my coaching services? There's no pressure to sign up. I just want to make sure you know that you can have more support if and when you want it. And some people might actually ask more about coaching right then, and that's fine. You get into a conversation. The vast majority of people will say sure, and then all you have to do is send a link to the most relevant coaching package with, and it should be pretty straightforward why they would want to work with you at that point. That's it. That's my script.